All right, welcome back to Normal. I'm here with my guest, Judy. Judy, karibu sana. Please introduce yourself and then tell us your story about your journey into motherhood.
Wow. Hi everyone, my name is Judy Kihumba. I am a maternal mental health advocate and I'm also a sign language interpreter. I am a mom to three beautiful children. Yes, one in heaven and the other two are there. Yes.
Thank you for coming, Judy. It's important for me to mention that I know your story, but that's why I called you here, because I want you to give me the story from a fresh take. There's a lot of women who are going through motherhood, and I feel like your story can help another woman go through this journey. So I want you to walk us through this journey, all right? The journey into motherhood.
Wow. Motherhood, I would say, has been good for me.
Yeah.
I have had a loss. I think that's where I should start, where I went through postpartum depression. And this postpartum depression, I went through it because I had had a loss before. I had lost a pregnancy. I lost the pregnancy when I was almost going to 5 months. And this happened, I had lost my dad, and in the process of losing my dad, you know, when you go to the hospital and you're not sure of how the hospital does. So I got shock, and the trauma caused my loss of the pregnancy. I thought I would never give birth again, and even the doctor had told me the same. So when I got birth, I gave birth 4 months later. I mean, when I got pregnant 4 months later, to me it was a mixed feeling of there was joy, there was the feeling, is it true, you know, with all those emotions. And in the process of the pregnancy, I was nursing a very close friend of mine, very close, who was a mother figure to me. And in the process, she had cancer. And you know how cancer mentally, it drains you emotionally, all around you it drains you. And seeing a person you've worked with a journey, a person you know so well, a person who is so close to your heart, go through cancer was a hard time for me. So I never knew that I had bottled up the emotions of my dad, losing my dad. And again, here I have walked a journey of somebody going to death. You know, I never knew that I had kept so much. So when I gave birth to my little girl in 2019, I exploded. I never knew what postpartum depression is, because I had not, maybe I was ignorant, I would say so, as much as I had given birth before. But after that, I went to the hospital after 2 weeks, because I had also many sorts of emotions, mixed feelings. I wasn't myself, I would say so. So when we went to the hospital and the doctor told us, this girl is going through postpartum depression. And I started researching and trying to know what is postpartum depression, what causes it, and how I should take care of myself, and of course take care of my children and take care of my family, so that I wouldn't neglect anyone. And of course, having 98% of my friends are deaf people, because I am in the deaf world. So in this world, I realized most of the people who were coming to visit me after giving birth were my deaf friends, and they would ask me questions. I realized there's so much that they don't know about postpartum depression. And out of this, I started to walk the journey with deaf moms. And it has been a beautiful journey, because there's so much I realize they don't know. There's a lot of information out there, yes, but they don't know the real information, because again, sign language is a visual language. Unless the information is broken into small videos, it's broken in a language or in a way that they can understand. So there was so much that they didn't know. Yeah.
That's amazing. You know, until I listened to you, I had never really processed the idea of a mom without ears. Yes. You know, who cannot hear. She has her ears, but she has no sound.
Has lost hearing ability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's lost the hearing ability. I think with matters of people who are going through certain things, we always think about the people who, you know, are able to sound and able to speak and able to process. But I've never really thought about the mom who has lost the ability to hear. And so I thought my whole motherhood is all about my ears.
Yes.
When I'm in the kitchen, when I've woken up and I've gone for a shower, yes, I'm all ears.
Yes.
Your friends, the ones who are visiting you, and the ones who you're now supporting, have no hearing ability. So for me, that is a really big deal. Yes. You are amazing.
Thank you very
pass
much.
that information to them and to, allow them to understand things from in their language, and not just the common language. So I just want to take a minute to commend you on that. It's a really big deal.
Thank you very much.
Not many people are doing that. We're passing on information digitally and, through video and motion and stuff, but we're forgetting that some people have no ability to hear, and yet they're still mothers. So talk to me a little bit about what you're doing in that space.
Okay, out of my experience, I came up with an initiative called Talking Hands, Listening Eyes on Postpartum Depression. Purely it's talking hands because the deaf people use their hands to talk and they listen not with their ears because their eyes are their ears. So that's why it's Talking Hands, Listening Eyes, purely talking to the deaf people. And we talk about postpartum depression, or we walk the motherhood journey, I would say, because if they are not going through postpartum depression because of many things that they have gone through, they're struggling with motherhood journey in one way or another. They're struggling with accessing medical health. They're struggling to access the health facilities. So out of all this, we work with them. And the deaf people, I would say deafness is a disadvantage disability. Reason why, if a deaf person came and sat here, unless you talk to this person to know that they can't communicate back to you, you'll think they can hear everything you're saying.
Right.
And most of the times, even in the hospitals, they will assume everybody can hear. These people miss so much information that is very important in their motherhood journey. Yes.
That's a really big deal. I was also trying to process whether in the big hospitals, if they attend and they care to the deaf, or do the deaf have to go and find a place where they can be communicated with? Because the journey into motherhood is all about communication. If there's no milk, or if I'm not feeling comfortable, if I'm going through pain, etc. I don't know if there, do you know if there are enough deaf practitioners? Is there a way I'm supposed to say that?
Sign language,
maybe I'd say sign language practitioners, in this space.
I would say there are not many. I've seen KMTC is trying to train people on sign language as they train the nurses and the medical people. They are training them, but we can say that we are not even quarter way, because these mothers are with us. These mothers are giving birth. These mothers are walking the journey of motherhood, but there is very few people or very few medical people who can use sign language to communicate with them. And you find that especially when in the early pregnancies, before it's detected, you can go to the hospital and tell the doctor, I feel like I have malaria. You give symptoms that almost to another disease. And if they don't do the test, what happens? They are given medication. Because they can't communicate well, because most of them use writings, they will write, and you find that the deaf people don't know Swahili at all.
Oh, wow.
So if you meet a deaf person and you want to talk to them, please, if you want to write down to them, don't write in Swahili. You find a doctor who thinks because this person, maybe the education level is low, I should write in Swahili. So they don't communicate. And sometimes they use very big jargons, I would say, which sometimes they don't understand. So most of the times they require sign language interpreters to make it easy for them, to break down the language for them. I
didn't know that deaf people don't know Swahili.
No, they don't do it.
Wow, that's amazing. Whatever you're doing is definitely able to penetrate. There's a time you told me this story and it really touched me. Please just tell it to me again. There's a story of a lady who had a baby and she was deaf. Do you remember that story?
Yes.
Oh gosh, tell it to me again.
Okay, I'd say on 7th of November 2020, I received a phone call that there was a deaf lady who was on labor pains and needed help in a hospital in Eastlands. So I called my friend because I wasn't very close to go and confirm for me, and because whoever called me told me that she doesn't have anything, she had not carried anything. As a mother, when you are ready to give birth, you carry your baby stuff, your stuff. So she had nothing literally. So she went to the hospital, and to her, because now there's the story I got from her that she never wanted the baby, and she had tried. Somebody had told her, again the misinformation, that if you take conch tea leaves, you take it every day in, day out, you lose the pregnancy. So to her, she knew she had lost the pregnancy, but the stomach was still becoming big. So when I went, I found her, and we took her home to her house after now she had given birth, and of course me and my friend had carried some few clothes from our babies, and we took her home. It was shocking to realize she had nothing. She was not ready at all for a baby. And from there we started a journey together. So I took her like my sister. She's a total orphan, and she was in a state that her family members wouldn't have reached to her, even the extended relatives. So I took her like my sister, and I started the journey with her. I'd leave work late, at 5, beat the traffic from town to Thika Road, and take care of her, do everything that I should do for a new mother, and then go back home. And in the process, of course she was staying in a community who didn't know how to communicate to her again. Yeah. And anytime, the new babies, before they adjust the environment, what happens that anytime the baby would cry, instead of them maybe try to open the door and maybe try to wake her up, because the deaf mothers, the deaf people follow their eyes to, as I said, to hear and to get to observe. Yeah. So if she's not looking at the baby at that point, or maybe she has, the new mothers, the way you get tired, you maybe have fallen asleep. Yeah. Then the baby will cry the whole time. And what would the neighbors do? They'll take stones, throw on top of her house, and you see it's iron sheets. What happens? The noise that will be there is like thunders. And what happens to the baby? Because the baby is not deaf, the baby can hear. Oh. So the baby gets the trauma, which the mother doesn't know. So the mother kept telling me the baby doesn't sleep. She's always frightened. So she was like, I don't know what exactly is happening. Until I was there one day. They didn't know I was there. I was bathing the baby, and the baby was crying. The neighbors still thought that the mother is alone and the baby is crying. So they started throwing the stones, and I went around and was like, what's happening? Was that necessary? So they told me that's how we wake her up. I was like, how now?
How now?
Yes, so we've walked the journey, and this lady went through postpartum depression because all the trauma, of course, taking care of your baby. Again, she was staying alone where the baby got a reflux. This reflux, the baby would would breastfeed, but the whole milk would come out again, like she's vomiting. And again, if the mother is not watching the baby can even choke. Yeah. If it's at night, the baby vomits again, and the mother is asleep, what happens? So out of that, we realized that the baby can't stay with the mother alone. And unless there's somebody walking with them, or there's a neighbor who would be willing to walk the journey with her. So out of that, me and my husband, we decided to take her with us, and she became part of our family. We have walked. Number one, it's because she was going through the postpartum depression, where sometimes she would not want to see the baby. Yeah. There are times she was feeling guilty of. Yeah. There were so many things happening within her, and she's alone. Of course, as I told you, she's a total orphan. So out of those many reasons, we took her in, and we have embraced her. My children have embraced the small girl. She's almost turning 1 year. Oh. And we are thankful. And out of that, I have learned so much that the deaf people don't know. Yeah. Even you, Kezi, for you, I'm sure you didn't go to school. Yeah. Or you didn't get a script of motherhood. Yeah. How to take care of your child. That a baby should wear a vest, a t-shirt, or maybe a romper on top. Yeah. Some of these things we never even read them in books to know this is called a romper, this is called a vest. You know that. The things that we learn because of the environment we are in. You go to the market or to the shop, and then the shop attendant tells you, oh, how many rompers do you need? Yes. Then you're like, okay, oh, so these are romper. Yes, this is a trouser. Some of these things we never sit down in a class to be taught. So these people are limited to information reason because how many people are communicating to them and telling them this is this instead of this. I remember one day the baby had fever. And she SMS'd me and told me the baby is very, very hot. She even didn't know why. She didn't know even what the fever. It's fever. Yeah, how does it? She told me the baby is very, very hot. Then I was like, okay, remove all the clothes as I come and let her remain with the vest. Then she asked me back, what's a vest? I'm like, there's some things you do today because your mom taught you not direct, but by you observing her and her saying some things that you're like, oh, when I get my child, I should do this. You get?
Yes.
But for these people, even the family members, how many families can say they know sign language? Very few.
I wanted to know, is postpartum really a new thing? Like, is it modern, or is it something that people are supposed to know about, or is it that you went through it and you got the information from the hospitals, etc.? Talk to me about postpartum depression, because it feels like there's a lot of societal misinformation about it, and yet you went through it. Just talk to me a little bit about that.
I'd say postpartum is not new. It's not, it's an old thing. Maybe it's old way, not even our mothers, our grandmothers, them days. But the way the society then was taking care of their own, of mothers who give birth, is different from the way we do it today. Today, KZ, if you give birth, we are in the social media era. I come, oh, she got a very cute baby. Selfie. Send it. Now, you get so many likes and following, but who comes to you next to you and asks you, Kezi, what's happening? Are you okay? How is the motherhood journey like? Are you struggling? Are you okay? No, because everybody, there's where they have put you up there. Even when you're going through your struggles, you won't tell them, unless you have a very close person whom you can tell. And this life has a lot of so many things. This life has all of a sudden change, especially this COVID time, where we are staying indoors, we are not visiting, we are not allowing visitors, people are not coming to check on us. Even this era of house helps, where that even them they had house helps, but this time where people want their space, you find people are bottling so much within themselves. Our grandmothers and even our mothers time, what used to happen is, if a lady gives birth today, she was treated like a queen. A queen she was, because the mothers in the village, one would bring firewood, this will bring water, this one will bring uji, this other one will take care of the other family in case this mother has other kids. It was a community work. But now here today, when I gave birth to my first child, my mother-in-law was always in the house. In fact, it took so long for me to know how to bathe my baby. I bathed her when she was almost 6 months. That's the time I bathed my first one. Come to my second baby, almost immediately. She was born almost closer to COVID time. And of course everyone is busy again in this, especially Nairobi, where everybody is running. We are all on the move, trying to catch up with the traffic jam, with the, there's so much, and people, it's not that they don't want to support, they want to support, but what happens, because of the way the life is, the rush and all that, you find yourself bottling so much by yourself, alone, and that's how we explode through postpartum depression. So it's not new. It was there. The only difference is how we take care of them mentally, of course, because this is a mental challenge, how we take care of our own today and how our grandmothers used to take.
How did you sense that you were having postpartum? Was the hospital there to help you, or is it that you were like, okay, what's going on? At what point did you know, okay, this is postpartum depression?
Okay, when I gave birth, immediately we came back from the hospital. I would say that I would not sleep. Number one, I would not sleep. I would stay the whole day awake and the whole night awake, holding my baby most of the times. And I realized, because this is the time I was starting to feel loneliness, and the loneliness was like, I wish my dad was here. That lady who was my mother figure, I wish she was around. I know she would be doing this, she would be praying for this baby, should be, those many things. And slowly I started withdrawing. I don't want to see my husband. My other baby was about, So there was so much happening. I remember there is a night I sat on a stool, not even on a chair, a stool in my bedroom, seated holding my baby a whole night. I am a CS mom, seated the whole night.
That's a trick.
It was very traumatizing. So by the time morning was coming, I was so tired. I could still not release my baby. I'm in pain. My back is killing me, holding the baby there and just feeding her. So that's when we realized I was not okay. I think after like 4 or 5 days. And my husband said, why to him first, because even him, he didn't know what it is. He used to think I'm pretending. In fact, he was like, why are you holding this baby like she's not like our firstborn.
Yeah.
She's so special than our firstborn,
Right.
because the first baby never behaved like that.
Yeah.
There were days I would go a full night, a full day, I'm not taking anything. I'll just take water and I sit. I will not eat. I will not, There are other times I would cry. Just cry. I hold my baby and I cry. I thank God that I had a group of very small girls. There were 4, including my baby. The oldest by then was 10 years. So you can imagine those girls, the heavenly sent to me. Because of course, because they are young girls, I would try to hold some emotions. So they would come and tell me, we want to help with the baby, we want to help with the baby. So at that point, I would get relief a bit. In fact, they helped me healing.
Wow.
They were part of my healing journey, because there's so much I would release to them. They would tell me, we want you to sleep so that we can play with the baby. And in the process,
You actually sleep?
I was getting the therapy I needed.
Right?
And they would ask me questions about motherhood. They would ask me questions about the baby. So with time, I learned. But before then, we went to the hospital, and the doctor actually said, the doctor confirmed I was going through postpartum depression. In fact, it's not like I woke up and said, I have postpartum depression, because you can never diagnose yourself with postpartum.
Actually, it's important that you're saying that, because it now leads me to know that if there's a mom out there who's going through postpartum depression, she can actually contact her doctor, and now they're aware of the situation.
Yes.
There's a lot of information in hospitals within the pediatric and gynecologic world to know that postpartum depression is alive, and we need to look out for it. So if I'm really stressed, or I'm not feeling myself, and I talk to my doctor, he's able to spot that I need that help. So that's good information.
Yes.
Yeah. Super. You know what? I am so touched with your story. I feel so excited that you managed to get out of it, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
It's a journey.
Me help mothers there that working out of the postpartum depression, or any other kind of depression, whether it's a clinical depression or any other depression. It's a journey. And you have to purpose.
Yeah.
You have to purpose to walk that journey. When there are days that you will wake up so low, there are days you will wake up very hyper, and there are days you will take life as normal. But in all those feelings and in all those emotions, learn to take a day at a time.
Yeah.
Because it's a journey.
Let me close with that, because that's wonderful. Learn to take a day at a time, because it's a journey. Because it's a journey. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Judy, for your story.
You most welcome.
I'm so touched.
Thank you very much.
See you next time on Normal.